Madam Deputy Speaker, can I start by just paying tribute to some of the speeches I've heard today? Firstly, by the Honourable Member for Bracknell, who spoke very passionately about a number of issues, but particularly special educational needs, which is something that I'm also incredibly passionate about, and we need to make sure this Parliament we do something on that area. Otherwise, you know, we have huge problems as a country. And also the Honourable Member for Leicester East, who I predict may disagree with on quite a few issues over the next however many years. But I have to say it was a very good maiden speech, and I'm not just saying it because it's customary to say so. You know, clearly you're a very powerful orator, and you mentioned your ancestors. I'm sure they'll be incredibly proud of you for the speech you made today. So going on, I would touch upon also some of the points that the Honourable Member for Gloucester just picked up on, which is the reaction of the front bench to today's debate and the glimmers of hope that he sees. And I must say, whilst acknowledging that the history of the British Empire was checkered, to say that there's no positive contribution made at all is wrong. And also, this incessant need to feel that you should prioritise apologising for our country the whole time and not seeing anything good about us as a country and our history and why we are special as a country, I think is absolutely a reason why lots of patriotic voters up and down the country abandoned the Labour Party at the last election because you turned your back on them, and by the looks of things, you're going to continue to do so. In terms of the body of my speech, you know, it's a privilege to speak on Commonwealth Day in this debate on the Commonwealth of Nations in 2020. The historic bonds between the 54 countries of the Commonwealth are of immense personal significance for many people in Ipswich, as well as for millions of people across the country and around the world. But while these bonds have endured in people's hearts, unfortunately, this country's relationship with our Commonwealth partners has been neglected over the decades. As we've been shackled to the European Union and tied into the dogmatic pursuit of ever closer union, we have been drawn away from some of our closest friends and most loyal allies in the Commonwealth. This has left many around the world, including myself, with a deep sense of regret, Madam Deputy Speaker. Before the 31st of January and our exit from the European Union, we were members of an artificial and Babylonian construct which sought to govern the peoples of Europe and attain the power to coerce their elected governments. Rather than bringing people together, this form of supranational government often drives people apart. This outdated and undemocratic model, while former European Commission President José Manuel Barroso likened to the creation of a new empire, stands in stark contrast with the values and the principles of the Commonwealth. Our Commonwealth of Nations is based on a voluntary association of sovereign states, with no country exercising power or dominance over any other. Commonwealth countries retain their right to opt out of any arrangements made, and there is no obligation to hand over legal or regulatory powers to unaccountable bodies. This intergovernmental system reflects the sense of security Commonwealth countries have in their own identities, and the respect held for each other as equal members of our Commonwealth community. It fosters a working environment based on agreement and respect that makes positive and consensual cooperation possible. Unlike the EU, which is driven by the idealism of an elite few, the Commonwealth is grounded fundamentally in what unites its peoples. These bonds are practical and they are tangible, but also immensely personal in many ways. They are forged in our shared history, trade, common culture, the language we speak, common law, shared values, a movement of people, and even as brothers in war. These are the elements we must consider as we debate Commonwealth in 2020 and as we look to our global future. Madam Deputy Speaker, if we are to reignite our relationship with this modern and dynamic community of countries, free trade must be at the heart of our efforts to make up for lost time. We must not forget that free trade was laid down in the Commonwealth Singapore Declaration as one of our core common values and goals. Trade between Commonwealth nations is already estimated to be worth approximately £425 billion a year, and this is projected to rise to over £532 billion this year. With 60% of the Commonwealth's 2.4 billion population aged under 30, and with some of the world's fastest growing economies too, the opportunities for mutually beneficial trade are enormous. Now we've taken back control of our trade policy and left the stagnant and protectionist EU bloc, which frequently raised tariffs to the rest of the world as it struggled to get its own trade deals over the line. There's no reason why we can't grasp the opportunities of intra-Commonwealth trade with both hands. The EU has trade agreements with 23 Commonwealth states, but these deals only represent a small fraction of what is possible. India-EU negotiations have been ongoing since 2007 without success, and the Canada deal, which should eventually pass, was almost vetoed at the last moment. We couldn't rely on the EU to prioritise our Commonwealth links, Madam Deputy Speaker. That's why I welcome the target set out by the Commonwealth heads of government to boost intra-Commonwealth trade to £1.5 trillion by 2030. And we must be ready to play a full role in building new trade deals with our partners from the foundations of the legal, linguistic and cultural norms we already share. While these important aspects are already in place, and as I've said before in this place, this country must also be prepared to be as nimble, flexible and determined as in the world as we seek to join our free ourselves from the EU's protectionist customs union. India alone has a population of 1.3 billion, double the size of the EU's, and we must have the right tools in place if we are going to embrace our future as a truly global free trading nation. Madam Deputy Speaker, in the past we've had a situation where Belgium has often traded more to India than we have. The European Union has been a barrier to us embracing the growth of what's happening in India. This means having first, but it also means if we're going to embrace the opportunities of trade with the Commonwealth, having first-class infrastructure to support ports like Ipswich and Felixstowe. Madam Deputy Speaker, ensuring that all parts of this country share in the benefits of increased trade. If this country is to broaden its horizon to a Commonwealth and the world, we must also have a laser-like focus on the parts of this country that have untapped trading potential. The new role this country can play in the Commonwealth will be determined more than anything by our investment and belief in places like Ipswich and the east of England. Madam Deputy Speaker, a great deal of belief and investment in our town has already been made by the great number of Commonwealth citizens. And Commonwealth origin Brits have also made Ipswich their home. And I also want to use this opportunity to pay tribute to them. Among them are members of the Indian community who play a vital role in our town, with many of them dedicating themselves to caring for others, filling many of the roles in our local NHS. We also have the great Bangladeshi community in Ipswich, which has produced some of our town's most successful business owners and entrepreneurs. Their care for a wider community cannot be understated either. The Bangladeshi Support Centre in Ipswich doesn't just help vulnerable people from a Bangladeshi community, but people of over 50 different nationalities from around the town as well. I've been lucky during my time as MP to have positive and many positive interactions with these communities. Madam Deputy Speaker, and of course this has been aided by the common language shared throughout the Commonwealth, as I have mentioned before. Of course, I'm referring to the language of cricket, and as some of you may have, certain eyes may have spotted, but I am wearing the cricket tie for the APPG for cricket. And I have said that the next time there's a Cricket World Cup, we need to have a big screen in the centre of Ipswich, so that the next time there's an England-Bangladesh game or an England-India game, we need to embrace the Festival of Cricket to a far fuller extent than perhaps happened in the past. Cricket, yeah, I'll give way.
Explaining the interests of cricket, it also understands how important it is to support Ipswich football team. My oldest son supports Ipswich football team, well known as the Tractor Boys. Football's not as good this season, but they're still a team worth supporting.
Absolutely. Things aren't great at the moment for Ipswich Town. We're 10th in the 3rd division, and it's pretty bleak. Only 4 weeks ago we beat Lincoln 1-0 and we were top of the table. How quickly things can... Maybe I was a bad omen. I don't know. But what I would say is cricket unites Commonwealth citizens across the continent and is truly a great symbol of what we share. Some members... last week's World Cup demonstrated that.
While he's searching for the final thread of this great speech on the Commonwealth from Ipswich, from the heart of Ipswich, does he agree with me that one of the things that I hope the Minister might celebrate in his wrapping up this evening is the role of the Commonwealth within the United Kingdom today? Because, as he mentions, we all have Commonwealth citizens serving in our hospitals, often serving in our armed forces, as has been mentioned earlier, but in many ways of life, the descendants, the children of the Commonwealth, are playing such an important role, and that's something we need to celebrate today. Does he agree?
I couldn't agree with the Honourable Member more. They truly are the best of us, and that, I believe, is recognised, but needs to be recognised to an even greater extent. I would also say that one thing I did agree with the Honourable Member for Brighton Kemp Town on was the issue of those Commonwealth citizens serving in our armed forces. And at present, we have Commonwealth personnel who have served for at least 4 years and wish to continue to live in this country. They face a fees of nearly £2,400 per person for indefinite leave to remain here. That means that a whole family of 4, the cost could be over £9,500. This House won't need reminding of the enormous sacrifices made by those countries now in the Commonwealth during the great conflicts of the 20th century and the First World War. At least a quarter of those who laid down their lives for Britain's cause cause were not British. Still today, Commonwealth citizens fill our ranks to fill the shortages we have. Those that sacrifice so much for our country and who have come away from their families to do so should not face such exorbitant fees to stay in the country they've served. I urge the government to, as it did in 2018 when it waived immigration fees for Afghan interpreters who had aided British forces in Afghanistan, and to waive the fees for brave Commonwealth troops serving in the British military. If anybody should not be considered a foreigner in our country, it's then, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, this country's decision to leave the European Union was not inward-looking or isolationist, but an opportunity to pursue a global future as an independent sovereign country. It's an opportunity because leaving the European Union by itself is just the beginning of this effort. And as we take our first steps as an independent country, reaching out to our partners in the Commonwealth should be one of our highest priorities. This year's theme for Commonwealth Day is delivering a common future, connecting, innovating and transforming. This is a message we must embrace wholeheartedly. Whether it's trade, immigration, integration or cooperation, so many of the right preconditions already exist to create more Commonwealth success stories. People strongly believe that the Commonwealth links we share in Ipswich and across the country. Let's act on these human relations and turn them into a reality for this country's new relationship with the Commonwealth. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.